All right. Welcome to the Portage County Safety Council's podcast channel. We are excited to have you here with us today. We are releasing our podcast series specials for the Ohio Safety Congress and Expo coming up March 9th and 10th here in the great state of Ohio. We are really excited to have this opportunity to interview some of the top-notch speakers that will be presenting. And we are lucky today to have with us Dan Sowry with the Ohio EPA, who's going to be one of our presenters. Dan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
And, I'm really excited about Ohio Safety Congress. It's just a great time of the year where we learn so much stuff. There's so many topics out there for all of us safety professionals to wrap our heads around. And EPA is just a whole nother ball of wax for us to understand. So, your expertise is needed. But before we jump into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in the Ohio EPA?
So, I wanted to save the planet. So I was Captain Planet. I came to the agency about 22 years ago. I was still in my 20s. I still feel like I'm in my 20s, but I'm certainly not when you look and you see me in person. But I wanted to save the planet. And what I really enjoyed doing was explaining these regulations in an easy, common sense type of way that anybody could understand. You don't have to have you don't have to have a law degree to understand these regulations. So I've worked through a number of different programs, and then our Office of Compliance Assistance and Pollution Prevention was formed. And we're basically like a free environmental consultant for businesses out there. So I really enjoyed the aspects of being able to explain this stuff in a common sense type of fashion. And now I head up this program where that's exactly what we do. We put on a lot of webinars, we put on a lot of conferences, we write a lot of guidance documents, come up with assistance tools to basically help businesses stay out of trouble. And that's exactly what I plan on speaking about at BWC Safety Congress.
That's really interesting. So tell me a little bit about that, Dan. Do you actually go into companies, or you just do more educational outreach? How are you working with those employers?
We're not inspectors. So we're not going to, show up in a helicopter and rappel onto your roof in some kind of ninja outfit. EPA is here, but we're a non-regulatory group within the agency. So yes, we do conduct on-site visits. If a business wants to come out or have us come out and take a look around, it's all confidential. Nobody knows about that visit, and we will bring up any type of issues that we see that may be compliance issues, and hopefully get that business back on the right track before they end up inspected, hopefully.
You must be Ohio's second best kept secret. I always joke about that. That's exactly what I do here at the state. Is I go in and I'm doing the OSHA side of things, right? And a lot of people don't know about this. We're not here to kick in your door and issue fines. We're here to help you keep Ohio employees safe and really keep your premiums down too. So that's great to know that we have this resource from the EPA here. And man, that is a gift in itself when you said to be able to review regs and develop them and train on them in a way that's easy to understand without being an attorney. I know reading regulations is miserable. A lot of people don't understand that. So hats off to you on that. That takes a special person to do that. What's the title of your presentation? What should everybody be looking for?
So this is Ohio EPA's rules and what you need to know to stay out of trouble. The problem is I can't possibly uncover in detail all of Ohio EPA's rules in 45 minutes to an hour. So I'm only going to hit on the major points of the major issues that can certainly get your facility into potential trouble with Ohio EPA for not being in compliance. So we're going to talk about air, water, waste, and I'm really going to go in a little bit more detail into proper waste management. So very common things that people don't necessarily think could get them in trouble. Fluorescent light bulbs, great example. Don't throw those things in the trash. They're typically considered a hazardous waste. And if you do have a permit, make sure you read it and understand what those permit requirements require that you to do. And then I also want to talk about resources for how to help you stay out of trouble, and resources within our agency, like the program that I oversee. We're basically a free environmental consultant that's confidential, and we don't charge you any money either. All of our services are free.
That is huge. especially in Ohio, we have so many small to mid-sized companies, and two issues for them. One, they don't have the resources or time to manage some of these things. Number two, they don't have the money to invest in it. So they just don't know. And when there's resources like you available, I think it makes all the world of difference, because now we can walk them through that. Yeah, there's some work to do, but it's not as scary as it sounds. And it's not as hard as it sounds sometimes.
That's exactly right, Nick. And you know, in my experiences, businesses aren't trying to do the wrong thing. They just don't know what the right thing is. And it's not like they want to call up the EPA and be like, hey, how can I get myself in trouble today or potentially lose my job because I'm responsible for all these environmental regs or safety requirements at my facility. So we want these folks to have an open door in our agency where they can seek answers to their questions without feeling like they're potentially going to get inspected. And we can help them get back in compliance and potentially save a lot of money that they would normally pay for at a consulting fee or a consulting firm.
So, now that you've been doing this for a little while, are you seeing a lot of success stories, people learning new things and making some differences out there? And what's that look like for you, a typical day of this consultant?
Absolutely. So we end up helping about 10,000 entities in the state every single year. And we fill out over 1,000 different pieces of paperwork, typically permit applications for entities around the state. And we have seen, we always put out a customer service survey of how we're doing. We get, glowing reviews, a lot of entities saying, hey, I wish I work as an environmental consultant and I cover several states. And I wish that there were programs like this in the other states as well. So we are, of our program and other states like us, we have one of the largest programs here in Ohio. And like I said, I think it's a wonderful resource for businesses trying to not get themselves in trouble and stay out of trouble and find out exactly how you keep in compliance.
When we start talking about compliance and just really starting to understand some of that, what's some of that low hanging fruit that maybe today I'm listening to this podcast, I'm kind of getting excited about your topic. I want to hear about it, but maybe I got a few hours ahead of me today. And if I walk around my plant, what are some of those low hanging fruit that I should really maybe be setting off those red flags to say, hey, I need to give Dan a call, or I need to do something different here?
Yeah, first off, I have like 4 rules of thumb. Do you have a stack, a vent, a dust collector? Are you creating some kind of fumes? Is there dust that's coming out of your facility? Are you using any chemicals that have nasty fumes? Are you burning anything? Are you burning anything like a boiler and uses some type of fuel? Those are all things that could trigger an air permit. Are you discharging to the wastewater treatment plant, or do you have your own wastewater treatment plant? Where's that wastewater going? Are you doing any type of power washing outside? Do you have your own drinking water well, or do you get your water for your facility from the city? And then lastly, what are you putting into your trash? Because anything that could potentially be considered a hazardous waste and you throw into the trash could get yourself in trouble. So fluorescent light bulbs is a great example. A lot of people don't think that those things above our heads are considered hazardous waste. And they may be throwing those in the trash or having sword fights with them. But regardless, you need to evaluate what you're throwing away, whether that's to the air, to the water, to the land, into your dumpster, into your trash can. That's your first step, is to evaluate where you are there. Your next step is to determine if you need any type of permits. And then walking through the application portals, and certainly we can be a good resource to you to help you fill out any of those permits, identify any type of compliance issues, and get you on the right track.
So do you find yourself working a lot with the local emergency planning committees, the LEPCs, and those sorts of things in the area, or are you more just dealing with the Ohio EPA and the federal regulations?
Well, no, we typically do not. Our bread and butter are the small businesses, and the backbone of our economy, not just in the state of Ohio but nationwide, is made up of small businesses. And small businesses, I mean less than 100 employees. These folks, oftentimes, it could be the owner, could be the manager, they're head of HR, they're head of fiscal, they're head of environmental, they're head of safety. And so they're wearing multiple different hats. So giving them that resource that we can at least help with the environmental end of things, to help them sleep at night. and not have to worry about maybe a disgruntled employee calling the agency or calling BWC or OSHA or calling taxation. So we want to be that resource for those folks.
I know in my world, regulations are always changing, rules, best practices continually change. And I'm sure it's the same way in your world too. How do employers keep up with that? Do you have a resource for them? Is there a place they go to? What's available just to stay on top of that information?
So we have a lot of really good, helpful resources on our webpage. One in particular is a self-assessment guide. So this is a guide that walks you through a series of questions, kind of like TurboTax, if you've ever used that. But it'll walk you through a series of questions, and based on your responses, it'll tell you whether or not you need a permit or if there's a potential requirement that you should be complying with. We also have a permit wizard, which is an online tool where it'll walk you through, very much similar to like a TurboTax, where it's going to ask you a series of different questions, and based on your answers, it'll tell you, hey, you might need an air permit or you might need a stormwater permit.
That's great to know, and that's what it's about. Ohio employers just need those easy resources to be involved, to make it easy, because if it's complicated, nobody's going to do it. And so we have to find easy ways.
That's exactly right. We also have a lot of guidance documents, fact sheets, palm cards, a wealth of different resources on our webpage. We have something called the answer place. So if you have a question and you want to ask it to the agency, you can immediately get a response back from the agency of whatever your question might be. And oftentimes folks may think that it's the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency that covers a certain requirement, where it may be a different regulatory agency like the Ohio Department of Health or the Ohio Department of Agriculture. So getting people in the right, pointing them in the right direction and helping them as quickly as possible.
It's great to know that there's another resource like this here. And I'm actually really excited for your topic, because your world and my world kind of blend together all the time when I'm walking around a factory. And there's all these gray areas of, hey, whose responsibility is it? And knowing there's resources like you out there is going to make all the difference, I think, for us as consultants, but just for employers here in Ohio too. If you could leave the listeners with one thing, what do you want them thinking about today as they prepare to hear your great presentation in March?
I think the number one thing is just being aware of your potential liability as a facility, and understanding that you need to have a comprehensive understanding of the waste that your facility is creating and know the proper management for each one of those wastes. Like I said, to air pollution, to the air, to the atmosphere, to the water, to the ground, and whatever you're putting into the trash.
If they're looking to get a hold of you, they want to get some additional information before the conference, or they just want to start to head down this path now because of this podcast, where do they go? What website, what phone number, what's the best way to take the next step?
So go to epa.ohio.gov, and on our webpage, we have a brand new webpage, actually, new shiny look and feel to it. Click on the tab at the very top that says stay compliant. That'll give you all of the resources that you could possibly need. Plus, it gives you our contact information for our Office of Compliance Assistance and Pollution Prevention. And that's a mouthful, so we refer to ourselves as OCAP, OCAPP. But check us out. Again, we're a non-regulatory, free environmental consultant for businesses out there.
All right. Hey, Dan, thank you so much for being on here with us today. I'm looking forward to your presentation. Don't forget about it, March 9th and 10th, Ohio Safety Congress and Expo. Check that out at www.ohiosafetycongressandexpo.com. You can register for all the free classes there, including Dan's, and catch up on the latest news. Thank you again for being with us today.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, everyone, be safe out there.